Welcome to the Cube. My name is Gummi, and Sammy is actually absent today. He had a previous engagement, but we do have a special guest today, George Alvarez. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, George?
Hey, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. George Alvarez. Alvarez. I get criticized for not saying Alvarez. It's Jorge Alvarez, and I'm like, it's George, man. All right. Well, George Alvarez. I'm a member of Laredo Funny, stand-up comedian here in town. Real quick, if I could do my plugs, you can find me. All the information is on social media. It's at Laredo Funny George, spelled Jorge, on Instagram and Facebook. And Laredo Funny, like I said, we're a bunch of stand-up comedians. We produce shows here in town locally. We do some stuff out of town, but we do promote a lot of stuff here locally. And you can find us all our information on upcoming shows is on our Facebook and our Instagram pages. Again, that's at Laredo Funny.
Last week we were talking about relationships, and we talked about what I call qualifiers. And qualifiers, just so you know what I mean by that, are things. For example, you're looking for a girl. Maybe you want somebody who's hot, right? You want a hot woman. You want her blonde, blue eyes, small waist, big hips, stuff like that, right?
You've done your research. You know my type, like.
So you're looking for those qualifiers, right? A lot of times, when you ask women, they say, well, I want a tall guy. He has to be tall, and he has to have, this career or this car or something, And so these qualifiers, I always laugh at them because they're of no substance, right? They're not going to determine whether your relationship is going to be successful or not, right? So it's just materialistic stuff. It's aesthetic, they have nothing to do with anything, right? It's just a preference that you have. So I say, well, you can have a preference, but my qualifier is Selena Gomez. Okay, so if a girl comes up to me and wants to talk to me, nope, you're not Selena Gomez, so I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna waste my time on you. So, and this is how ridiculous it is, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a tall dude, and height is usually the one that a lot of people say, right? So that's why I bring it up. But if there's a guy, who's 6 feet tall, and you want him,
He's out of my league. I'm too short for him.
And there's a guy who's 5'10" or 5'9", and the guy who's 5'9" could be like the love of your life if you want to, or your soulmate if you believe in that. But no, you're gonna go with the guy who's taller because you prefer taller guys. And you just lost in somebody who could have made you, could have given you a happy
Happily
life.
ever after, yeah.
And you lost out because in your own little, qualifier thing, right? You want him to be tall. So the odds of me meeting Selena Gomez, for one, are like 1 in a million, right? The odds of me meeting Selena Gomez and her actually liking me are probably 1 in quintillion. It's not impossible, but highly improbable. So that means that if I'm holding out for that person, that I'm losing out on potential relationships that could make me happy.
Okay.
Right? So when you're out there dating, what do you ever see these people like with these qualifiers, people talking about those qualifiers?
I do, and I think it's I don't want to say anything offensive here, but I think it's sad because it's an extreme exercise in being shallow. I think in a serious relationship, a good, healthy relationship, you need to have that intellectual, mental, and emotional connection, not just the physical stuff. I don't want to sound insensitive as to compare it to shopping for a car, but it's window shopping. Yeah, that car looks amazing, but what's the gas mileage on it? How much am I going to spend? I can't afford the maintenance. Like, relationships can be the exact same way. You can window shop and then go, you know what? I can't afford the mental health maintenance, the emotional maintenance, the intellectual maintenance. So I don't know. Personally,
Yeah.
Have you ever stopped a date because like the person wasn't connecting on an intellectual level? And you're just like, why do I have to keep explaining things to you? Like,
Yeah, I didn't stop the date, but I knew that I was going to talk to this person again.
oh yeah, and they okay. I don't know if this is a qualifier. Well, I mean, I guess everything's a qualifier. It's just a matter if it's a physical qualifier or a mental qualifier. I once went out on a date with this woman, and I couldn't. I couldn't finish the end of the night because we went to this nice Italian restaurant, and she grabbed her fork. They brought her plate, and she's like, "Oh, this is like super like delicious." And she grabs her fork like that, like just sticking at that end, and just started digging into this thing. And I was like, "Oh my God, you don't know how to eat, and I don't think I could be seen in public with you." There's nothing wrong with holding the fork like that. You know, if it's 2:30 in the morning and you come home and you're from the bar and you've had one too many and you're digging into a bowl of mac and cheese, you toddler that thing, you 4-year-old grip that fork and just shovel mac and cheese into your mouth. That's not the problem. When you're on a date in a fancy Italian restaurant, you're like, "Oh my God, like put it down, put it down." Like, oh, what's worse? She just starts digging into the pie like no, no, no. I'm sorry. So that's one thing that it's like, okay, like the physical qualifiers, that to me I think is shallow. But when it comes to what a person is like with themselves, even something as simple as that, and it's like, okay, well, that speaks volumes as to maybe how that person was brought up, maybe into how their experiences have played out through life. Are they emotionally immature? You'd never know. But there's little things like that you kind of see and like, it's a little quirky. I don't know about that. Well, going back to real quick why you do that is when I talk about the intellectual, like be with someone that's on your capacity. I not just myself. I'm not gonna just say this, but like I've had friends who will say like, man, like this guy's really really interesting. He's really like he's hot. He's gorgeous. He's got the six pack, but damn, is he dumb?
Yeah, and to me, those are deal breakers, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can date somebody who's good looking, attractive, whatever, but you know, it if they're dumb or if they have certain habits or I mean certain things that you don't like, but that are like completely deal breakers, because people say, you know, oh, these are deal breakers, and they're really not. Like they pick the stupidest things.
Yeah.
And again, like each person has their own preference. But I was gonna read here. There's an article that I read from Bustle.com. They're interviewing this doctor, and the doctor says people are far pickier now because of the apparent availability of new attractive partners with online dating and mobile apps. And it says we dismiss people prematurely that we would not have if we've met them before, because they have something we think is a deal breaker. But if we developed feelings for that person, we would accept it. You know, and I think when you, because this is what happens, I think a lot, where you meet somebody, you think they're attractive, and maybe, you know, I think you're attracted to a certain person based on like your own vision or perception of yourself, right? I mean, yeah, like you see Dua Lipa, everybody's gonna think she's attractive, right? But for you to actually go up to that person, like, do you have the courage to go and talk to somebody, right? You know,
Yeah.
she might just laugh at your face or something, but or she might talk to you. But when you go and you start talking to somebody, you say, well, hey, it's Dua Lipa, or somebody who looks that, you know, who's a very attractive, and so you start kind of like dismissing the things you don't like about her because you want to be with that person simply because of what they look like.
Yeah.
Which is again dumb. I mean, yeah, you're dating the hot girl or you're dating the hot guy, but they're not gonna make you happy in the long run.
You mentioned the two dirty words when it comes to dating in this age in society: social media. Social media is the worst thing to happen to dating. Simply just and based off of the qualifiers, based off of here is what I want, here is what I'm looking for. But the thing with social media is that it's not real life. My personal social media, I post a lot of bullshit. A lot of it is not true. A lot of it is I'm a comedian. I need to get clicks. I need to get people to laugh, react to stuff, so that when I promote a show,
Yeah.
I've got eyeballs on it. I have two boys. I have two sons, and I rarely post them on social media. And I've gotten the criticism of, oh, you don't love your kids, you don't want to share. And I go, my social media is public. Anybody can see that. I chose to be a public figure. My kids did not choose to be public figures. So for the most part, I keep them off of my social media because that's not real world. That's not real life. So you may have this idea in your head of what type of person I am based off of the bullshit I post
Yeah.
on Facebook and Instagram. And I feel like that happens a lot with dating. You see someone pretty, you click on their profile, she starts interacting with your profile. You don't know everything about their life, but you click on every little picture and you heart react every little story, and you start building this narrative in your head of
Yeah.
this is what I think she's like. This is what I think this, and it's not even her. This is some fictional woman you've created in your head to match what it is you're looking for. And I feel like a lot of times people are quick to jump into relationships. I feel like even faster now. And I don't know if that's just my age because I'm getting up there. I'm gonna be 40 soon. And at this point, you have people that are like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be single forever. I'm gonna be alone. I'm gonna die alone." Settle down, relax. All right, you're not that old. But you have these people, and so they want to rush into things without fully knowing each other. You see someone on Facebook, you start to like, okay, you build a narrative, you go on a date, they're fun because they're showing you their best side, you're fun because you're showing off your best side, and then before you know it, 3 weeks later, boom, you've moved in together. Why? Who knows?
Yeah.
And then you start to see, oh, okay, this person has anger issues, or this person, or I myself maybe am battling depression. You learn things about them and you, and all of a sudden you start bickering, you start clashing, and things don't go your way because they're not meeting up to the standard that you've built up in your head. And then it's so easy to say, oh, well, look at this pretty girl on social media. And you start neglecting this one, and you're
Yeah.
paying attention to this one over here. And that's, boom, the relationship is done. Now there's posts being made about you're toxic, and you're toxic. No, this and this. No, so-and-so said this. It's a big mess. It's a 14-year-old. It's a middle school cafeteria dating, and it's a bunch of adults that do this.
And you have people, who with low self-esteem, for example, and you know who'll stay with a guy or with a girl because they think they can't do any better. There's people, I've seen couples where the guy is not necessarily the most attractive, right? And he's basically just kind of like taking care of the girl who's very attractive. And so, I mean, the looks, again, they don't, in the long run, they don't really matter, but there's something about this guy that that
No.
girl likes, which is fine. But if he's doing it, if he's not gonna leave her because maybe she's doing something he doesn't like, and he doesn't stand up to her because he's afraid to lose her, then I mean he's just basically hurting himself. This happened to me in my first relationship. Not my first relationship, my first love, where the first time I
okay.
fell in love, where I didn't know how to be a boyfriend because I had been in previous relationships and done stuff, but never in a serious relationship where I actually felt love towards somebody. And I didn't have a father figure. I grew up single parent. It was my mom, and I didn't have anyone around me that I could kind of like model myself after. And so when I was in that relationship, I didn't know like how to be a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, you're nice and you take care of them, and they take care of you and all that stuff. But as far as like the real substance and the support system and all that that you have for each other, I didn't know about any of that stuff. And I mean, I learned, and the relationship lasted a year and a half, but it wasn't, had I been a wiser person with more knowledge and more experience, then I'm pretty sure that relationship would have lasted longer than that.
Can I add something to you mentioned there about the low self-esteem? And I think people have this idea in their head of like a person with low self-esteem is like someone who maybe doesn't, isn't dressed up nice. They're kind of sloppy. They kind of, a little bit depressive, and I'm so ugly, this and this. And it works both ways because I've encountered people that are drop dead gorgeous, just complete knockouts with terrible self-esteem, with constantly needing the reassurance of, do I look okay? Do I look good? Do I look pretty? Do I look? And it's like you look gorgeous, like, but so self-esteem works in both ways. It's not just the person that you would stereotypically think of as, oh, they have low self-esteem. It's also that person that is very showy and very charismatic, very bubbly, but also with like that constant need for reassurance. because of that self-esteem. It manifests itself in tons of different ways. That's why relationships 20 years ago, I would not have thought that that gorgeous person, that hot guy with the nice hair and the six-pack abs, I would never have thought he suffered from low self-esteem. That would never have occurred to me because he's hot. Why would he, like, what's he complaining about? Like, but it's true because you never know. Now, me at 22 or 23 completely would not understand that. Me at 39 am barely learning that. So yeah, I think a serious relationship, do it like go wait a little bit, wait a little while, and kind of learn and experience stuff. And I don't mean like go and date this person, that person, but just kind of keep your eyes open, pay attention. You'll learn a lot by
Yeah.
observing. So yeah, man.
And by observing and listening to your friends and stuff, like what they go through in relationships as well, you don't have to. And this is the one thing that I always tell people when they talk about relationships. And there's one thing that I hear a lot, which we've all heard, is they have to make their own mistakes. Well, yeah, I think people have to make their own mistakes. However, you don't have to make every single mistake to learn from mistakes, right? From your mistakes. There are things that if I told, like you tell your son, hey, don't do this or whatever, because then this is going to happen. He doesn't have to, do it to learn from it.
Yeah.
He's learning from you, you know? And so, like, you make mistakes and like the pain that you go through and all that, like it builds character. Okay, well, you can still build character without having to go through trauma and,
Yeah.
and pain and heartache and all that stuff.
You don't have to go. You don't have to go to hell and back to have an idea of what could possibly happen. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but a lot of people, they're stubborn, they're curious, they do all these things, and you see that. You see the people jumping into relationships because they don't want to be alone, or they finally found somebody, and you just go on social media, man. Some of your friends right there. You see a guy or a girl like, oh, relationship, and 3 months later it's somebody else, and then 3 months later somebody else, and they're just jumping. And the one thing that I always think of when I see that is, do you even know what you want? Do you even know who you are as a person? Have you grown enough as a person to say, I'm going to tolerate this, but I'm not going to tolerate that? This is what I want in a person. And again, it doesn't have to do with stupid height or looks or anything like that. It's of substance, but people still, it still happens, right? I'm going to read this thing here. It says from the same article, and it's an article about deal breakers, right? And they give you 10 different deal breakers you want. But it says, when a woman tells me, this is one of the people that were interviewing, when a woman tells me I won't date anyone shorter than 6 feet tall, I press her on her why. If you can tell me that when you look back in 5, 10, 20 years and say, I am really glad I didn't date that great guy because he was only 5'9", no way he could have made me happy, then okay, for you that's a deal breaker. I happen to think that that's not truly valid as a deal breaker, but that's an individual decision. At least ask yourself the question and don't just arbitrarily decide who is worth giving a chance. And so what I see a lot, especially, so I teach school, when I see a lot in students and in people in their early 20s, is that they don't know their worth. They don't know their worth, and so they tend to date people that, quite frankly, are below them. And it's not about looks or anything. It's about goals and just the way that person is. And so you see somebody, and you're just thinking like, oh, that person's great. And then you see their girlfriend or their boyfriend, you're just kind of like, what the hell? Like, where did that come from? And so, I think that's one of the things that people miss, and that they don't really think of, and that's what they're actually worth, right? So if you want to go through the top 10
Here,
deal
hold on.
breakers.
Let me just throw this one in real quick. You're right about knowing your worth, and everyone's had that. Everyone's seen that couple that, yeah, you see someone and you see their party, you're like, oh, come on, really? Like that's what? I'm sorry. And I love that when I was in high school, I actually had a teacher pull me aside. And this is probably completely inappropriate, but I respected it. I went to visit this girl I was interested in. Went to her house. I think I was like 16 or 17. And I go and I pull up, and I start walking into the house. And I think we were gonna go. I was picking her up. We're gonna go grab a bite or something. And my favorite teacher, who I was the teacher's pet in that class, she's watering her lawn. She was a neighbor, and she sees me. She's like, "Hey, George," and, "Oh, hey, what's going on? Miss So and So." And she's like, "Are you here to see Kathy or whatever her name was?" And I was like, I go, "Yeah, we're gonna go grab a bite." And she told me, she's like, "George," like then with almost a disappointed. She's like, and she goes, "Look, I don't want to say anything out of turn, but you're gonna get bored because she's not there, like on your level." But she meant not like in a negative way, because I was her student. She can see my work. She knows my thinking process. She knows how fast I process information, how I interpret it, how I break it down, and then how I reciprocate that information on the back end, right back out. So this is someone who knows me personally, and giving me just a word of discretion of like, "Hey, you're not on the same wavelength." And I'm to say that someone's better or someone's not good enough or someone's, but she basically saw like, you two are not on the same wavelength, and you're not going to. This is not going to be. It's not going to work out. And this might have been the girl that held her fork like that earlier in the story, in the podcast. It might have been her actually. So she was right.
Top 10 deal breakers, according to Bustle, right? They have issues with anger or abusive. I can see that.
That's valid. Like that one, okay.
That's a valid one, yeah. They're dating other people, including you.
Well,
they're not trustworthy. But I think you find out in a matter of weeks or months.
Years sometimes. Like I said earlier about people are like, they're quick to rush into relationships. I was in a relationship, and my girlfriend was like, "We should move in together already." It's like, whoa, slow down. Like we just met 6 months ago. Like we're still learning each other. We're still learning our quirks. We're still learning what drives us to the brink. We know what buttons to push, what buttons not to push. But we're figuring this out. This isn't something you rush to judgment and 6 weeks later you're planning the wedding. That's a terrible idea. I wouldn't do that for a second. Like
the more successful relationships are the ones where what I refer to it as like peeking behind the door. You kind of know who this person is and what they're about, their hopes, their dreams, their goals, and all that. It can be something as stupid as like their favorite color.
Yeah.
Knowing that, and then or knowing like that they don't like pickles, or they don't take mayonnaise in their burger or whatever. Married to someone else.
Then Laredo, that's not a deal breaker.
They have health issues or STDs. Health issues, I mean, depends on what they are, right?
I mean,
STDs, I would say.
That's probably because, that's more of a lifestyle choice than, like, you can't blame someone for having lupus, but, I mean, you can totally blame someone for if they have creepy crawlies going around down there. Okay, that I get you.
They have alcohol or drug abuse problems.
That's subjective, because for what some person may consider a problem, another person may be like, "No, it's fine. It's normal." That one I think is a little bit more subjective than the other. I think the other ones are a little bit more hard line.
They're not attentive or caring.
That one should come with a little asterisk at the back, because they're not attentive or caring based off of whose definition. Because you could shower that person with gifts, but again, if they have that low self-esteem and constantly need the reassurance, no matter of whatever you do is going to be enough, because it always feels like they're not getting enough. And then multiply that by the social media factor, where, oh, this guy's not paying attention to me, but look at these 3 guys are. And then before you know it, now that comes into the trust, which is a deal breaker. Now that comes into people are seeing other people, which is a deal breaker. And then you start arguing, fighting. Now those things are escalating, so now it turns into maybe physical or emotional violence, and now that's a deal breaker back on the list. And then you multiply that by a substance abuse issue, and now that becomes a deal breaker. You're checking off all the boxes here. Damn, man.
And some people still stay together,
even
through all that. They dismiss your interests.
That one's subjective, but I mean, also shouldn't.
I think it kind of goes with the attentive and caring part.
I mean, it's 50-50, because, for example, like if I'm dating you, right, I'm really into going to baseball games. Maybe you don't like baseball. Why am I going to sit here and, oh, my God, Gummi, you know what happened last night? Dude, Adolis Garcia went 4 for 4. He had 6 RBIs. We're sitting pretty in first place, and I'm excited talking about, and you could sit here, there was a bored look on your face like, what? I don't. But by the same token, I'm sorry, ladies. I want to go see the Barbie movie. Cool. Get dressed up with your girlfriends because I'm not dressing as Ken.
I think what they're trying to say is if you dismiss them completely,
Completely, yeah,
like
yeah.
you just kind of like cut them off.
It's a 50-50 because there's things that you may be interested in that maybe I'm not so much, but because I know it makes you happy, I know it's something that you're into. You know what? I'll go ahead. Let me check it out. Because what if I like it? There's been music. There's been movies that I would never have watched on my own, but because my partner was very excited about it, okay, and I'm open-minded. I'll give almost any music a chance. I'll give any movie a chance. Why not? Let me try. I'm curious. I want to learn new things all the time. So there's been times where I'm like, oh, okay, let me check this out, and then it turns out you really like it. Like I never thought I'd say this. Taylor Swift is my jam. Like, damn, man. Like for a guy that has Metallica tattoos on his arm, for me to go Taylor Swift is fucking talented. Like it's completely why because I was open-minded enough because my partner was super into this and it's one of her favorite artists, so you know what, I'll check it out. I kind of like that one. I kind of like that one. I kind of like that one. I think I'm in love with Taylor Swift.
And it's true because a lot of times they say, well, what do you have in common with that person? Well, you may not have a lot in common with that person, but when you get to know each other, you share a common interest because you, again, maybe you didn't like Taylor Swift before and now you do. Well, then or like you're a Cowboys fan or whatever fan.
That's a deal breaker. No, I can't.
And then that person also starts liking the same team you like.
Yeah.
So you grow together by having these common interests, but you gain them together. Like,
can I add to that is also have your common interests. I mean, I'm no one to give advice because I'm currently single, so I'm no one to give advice. But what I would recommend is have your common interests, but have your separate interests. Have stuff that you like to do that you can just go do by yourself. I love working in the yard, and that's cool. Like, can we cuss in here? I already did. I don't know if we can. All right. Like, that's cool. I like working on the yard. I like being outside. I like working with my hands. I love removing weeds and manicuring my lawn and cutting branches and taking the chainsaw and doing all. I love being out there. It's me time. It's time where I can just fuck off and I don't have to think about work. I don't have to think about upcoming dates. I don't have to worry about, dinner plans for the night. It's just an hour where I can be by myself. And then after that hour, and that kind of leads into where I was going with this is, couples, you don't need to be around each other 24/7. Give each other a little bit of space. Let me miss you. Let me miss you. And then when I've blown off all my steam and my head is clear, my yard is done, my trees look nice, I'll pick you up and let's go to dinner. We talk about how our day went.
So one of the things that I say is a recipe for success in relationships is obviously supporting each other's interests and goals and dreams and stuff. But where the problem starts is where if you're dating this woman, she wants to be a lawyer, for example. Maybe she's getting her degree right now or something or whatever, but she wants to be a lawyer, she wants to be a doctor or something. However, you're so busy with that you kind of lose interest in your own things, right? And you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, well, then what happens when that person leaves? Whether it's because you guys break up or you get divorced or she dies or something.
I'm gonna add something to that, and because I don't know if this is a fair assessment to say, a fair thing to add, but I don't know how much social media prevents that, because, like we said, if someone feels like they're not getting attention, they're going to run to that fake world of social media and get attention from a bunch of different people. So it's almost like in 2023, you're not allowed to have time away from each other because now the insecurity pops in of, well, he's not responding to me. Why not? What's he doing? Who's he texting? Who's he with? And it's like, I'm at work. Like, I'll text you from my break. Like, but it's one of those things where now people almost feel like they can't allow you to pursue your own interests or your own hobbies or even just an hour alone because it's a threat. It's, oh my God, he's talking to some chick. He's probably this and this. Well, you know what? I'm gonna message Tony, and Tony's gonna, like, you know what I mean? And I feel like it's very easy to say have your separate interests and have your time apart, but then to put it into practice, now jealousy comes in, insecurity comes in, self-esteem issues come in, and before you know it, things are falling apart because of a perceived thing. So I feel like people almost have to be attached at the hip, or the other person will stray.
So number 9 and number 10, they kind of go together. They have poor hygiene and they smell bad. I'm gonna go back to the qualifiers. There's a difference between having, like, oh, Selena Gomez is my qualifier. Well, that's a fantasy,
Yeah.
right? Reality is, I'm never gonna meet Selena Gomez. So you can have a fantasy. You can want the 6 foot tall guy with the 6 pack, but you can have all that fantasy. But odds are you're not gonna end with that, right? And so this is what I was saying last week, where if you aim up here and you land down here, you're basically settling for less than what you want. But you have to know the difference between, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at. You have to know the difference between your fantasy, like your dream girl, and then the person you end up with. I don't know Selena Gomez. I don't know, what drives her, what motivates her, what her hopes and goals are, and all that. I don't know what makes her mad, what disappoints her, what makes her cry. I don't know any of that stuff, right? So to me, it's just who she is. She's a celebrity. She's the fantasy, right? But the reality is, I'm gonna meet people, in person, and get to know all those things about that person, and where I can then, if I invest in the emotion in this person, then I can give her, my time, my attention. I can support her in her pursuit, whatever she wants to do, like in her career. I can support her with that, while I don't also lose myself.
I I've seen the people that really immerse themselves, and it's funny because you see them, on yeah, I know social media is not real life, but still, it is a way to keep up with friends. So you see them, and all of a sudden, like, she's dating this biker, and now she's got full on, like, the leather outfits all the time. That's all we do. We just
Yeah.
go. We're bikers. That's all we do. We hang out at Harley Davidson morning, day, and night. And then all of a sudden, they break up, and now she's dating some guy who's like really into, like, he's like a softball player. So now she's wearing, like, the T-shirt that's like Tony's girlfriend, and she's there. She's all about that. She had no clue what softball's about, no idea what the rules, but she's there. She's the number one cheerleader. And then they break up, and now she's dating some guy who's a rapper, and now she's like at the club every week. And it's like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
wait, you were a biker 6 months ago. Like, what happened?
But that just goes to show, like, it's positive in that she's supporting his interests, right? But it's negative in that she doesn't know who she is,
No.
so she's just kind of assimilating to what the guy is.
She just dives into the deep end to whatever that person is into.
She's defining herself by the person she's with, which is horrible. So for the final thought, you want to give your final thought?
My final thought, I'll just end on this, is the thing that I love about life, and the thing I love about relationships, and what I think qualifies me to give this final thought is, I don't know everything. We're still learning things as we go, and you're not going to know everything about your partner. You're not going to know everything about yourself. You're not going to know everything about a relationship or the way it's supposed to work, but we have a pretty good idea. Now, if anyone asks me for advice, for their relationship, my advice is don't. Just stay away. Go buy yourself a farm, live out there, grow your own vegetables, completely isolate from society, delete social media, never be seen or heard from again, go completely off the grid. So my advice to anyone for relationships, don't.
There are people out there who don't have good intentions, and they don't care about anyone or anything except themselves and anything that has to do with them. So I think people get lost, and they invest their emotions, their mind, body, and soul in people that don't give a crap about them at all, or they might because the only interest they have is that you're supplying them with something, you're giving them something in return, but they're not really investing themselves in you, right? So I would say, before you go out there and you do anything and get into a serious relationship, fall in love and all that, is know your worth, right? Know that you have value, and you should value yourself pretty high. So I would just say, invest in yourself before you invest in somebody else. Know your worth, and know that everybody wants to be loved, right? Everybody wants a relationship and all that, but there is absolutely no hurry to be in one.
That's the other
Take
thing
your
I'll
time.
add. Postscript on my final thought. Take your time, pump the brakes when you need to. Also, take care of your mental health. And if the person you're in a relationship is affecting your mental health, you should have that strong enough communication to bring that up. And if that still is not respected and it's not you're not helped and you're not and it's making you worse, progressively worse with your mental health, that qualifies as a deal breaker. Put that as number 11 on the list.
Okay. So yeah, Laredo Funny. You want to follow Laredo Funny? It's on. You have on Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram. Real quick, if I can do some plugs, you can find me on all social media. It's at Laredo Funny George. If you have viewers and listeners in the Corpus Christi area, August 4th, I'll be in Portland at the North Shore Country Club. Tickets are $20 for that. The information is on my social media. Laredo Funny, we put on some shows here in town. We'll be the next show we got coming up is August 14th. August 17th, I'm sorry. August 17th, Hal's Restaurant Bar, 6510 Arena Boulevard. We got Simply Courtney coming in from Austin. He's a great comedian. And then next show coming up after that, September 14th, also there at Hal's. John Stringer is going to be back in town. We've got John Stringer coming back. Awesome show. Ticket information it will be on Eventbrite. All that information you can access from our social media. It's at Laredo Funny on Instagram and Facebook, and as well as our Eventbrite page.
Okay, and for us, the podcast, the QLTX, we have it on TikTok. We are on Instagram, on Facebook, on where else are we? YouTube. We are the QLTX, THECUELTX.